Let's talk about Sukuna's dimensional slash. But before we continue, manga spoiler warning. If you're not caught up, keep scrolling. Today's video is brought to us by Jude, who wanted to know what's the logic behind Sukuna cutting Gojo's infinity. Thank you so much for the support, man. Also, I got this from Christian, but there was no message attached, so I'm not sure if that was an accident or if you were just showing some love, but if you did have a question and just forgot to add it, please DM me and let me know and add your name from this so I know it's you. First and foremost, it was because of Mahoraga. Mahoraga's ability, as you know, is adaptation. Once he sees something, he can adapt to it. So the whole game plan from Sukuna was to get Mahoraga to adapt to the limitless, and then, he could bypass it and injure Gojo. However, it was kind of a more sophisticated plan than that, because Sukuna wasn't just using Mahoraga as a weapon to defeat Gojo. No, Sukuna was using it as a blueprint, as a learning experience. He didn't want Mahoraga to end Gojo. He wanted Mahoraga to show him how to end Gojo. And we see this in the fight because at this point in the battle, Mahoraga had adapted to infinity. Mahoraga could injure Gojo, but it wasn't in a way that Sukuna could emulate. So Sukuna says, Mahoraga, how long are you going to make me wait? That's not what I want to see. You're my shadow now, not Megami's, so show me what you've got. Sukuna is asking for the next adaptation to infinity, hoping that that is going to be one that he can copy. And that's when this happens. Mahoraga sends out a slash that cuts off Gojo's arm, bypassing the infinity completely. So as Sukuna explains it, the first time Mahoraga adapted to infinity, it altered the essence of its own cursed energy in order to get past infinity. That was something that Sukuna could not do. However, the next adaptation it had to infinity was it was able to expand the target of the slash to essentially existence itself. And Sukuna was able to replicate that. Now, how was he able to do this? Because he's literally just him. Like, he is the most gifted, talented sorcerer we've seen in this verse. He can just see something once and know how to replicate it, as long as it's possible to be replicated. So he says it was near impossible to do, but I was able to follow that model. Now, I know a lot of people will have followed all of that, but they'll still be confused by this. Like, what does cutting existence itself even mean? Why does that allow you to bypass the infinity? So I've tried to come up with an example here to make it easier to understand. So here we have a sheet of paper that I have drawn Gojo on. Now, imagine this sheet of paper, which, is two-dimensional, it's flat. That is their entire existence. That is their universe. They know nothing other than the sheet of paper. And the little dotted line around Gojo represents his infinity. So Sukuna comes along and he doesn't really like Gojo, so he starts throwing some slashes at him. However, the slashes can't get past Gojo's infinity, so Sukuna's upset at this. So what does he do? He goes and gets Mahoraga, and eventually he learns from Mahoraga that he can just cut existence itself. So Paper Sukuna, instead of sending the two-dimensional slashes that will never reach Gojo because of infinity, instead slashed in the third dimension, tearing the entire paper itself, which in turn was going to tear through Gojo and infinity and everything else. Now, I'm not saying that Gege explicitly intended for this to be a dimensional slash and to be thought of in that way, but even if he didn't, this example still conceptually describes what happened here. Talk about hacks, right? My man can cut through existence, but like he said, it was nearly impossible to pull off, and I think only a savant like him could even do something like this. However, it's important to note that all of his slashes aren't dimensional slashes. It's just very specific ones. Every time since that we've seen Sukuna use this dimensional slash, he's had to perform a chant first. He also did it here against Higuruma. So this isn't something he can just throw out with every attack, which begs the question, if he was sitting there chanting, why did Gojo allow him to do that? And I think he didn't. So I think on the dimensional slash against Gojo, he didn't do the chants by instead doing a binding vow, sacrificing something. Now, I don't know what he did sacrifice. It literally could have been anything, right? But the exchange would have been, I'm sacrificing this in order to not have to do the hand signs or the chants for this dimensional slash in order to catch Gojo off guard. But since this all happened off screen, as it were, we don't know that that's the case for sure. Just my best guess.